So I just want to let everyone know. First of all, I just want to thank you guys all for being here. You have absolutely no idea how much it means to me to have the support. Um, and I'm telling you right now, ambitions, goals, and dreams mean nothing without family, friends, and a foundation to support you. So we're going to do a quick podcast. Um, And first, I'm definitely going to invite you guys to ask any questions that you may have in terms of the book, myself, career. And then we're going to hop into certain contents of the book. And then I'll let you guys enjoy some wine and some cheese. But a tradition of the Book and Berea Club is to make sure you do have wine and you do have cheese as we talk. So if you need to take a second to grab those things, get them in your hand. But welcome to the Book and Berea Club. So I actually want to start off with a question by my Aunt Suze.
Ryan, first let me say I'm extremely proud of you. Um, that's first and foremost. And my question is, has it settled in terms of where you have come from and where God has brought you in terms of your growth, development, your mental, your spiritual, and your intellect?
So I'm going to say that I am still processing everything that is happening, but I feel like I can answer this question with this kind of metaphor that I've been thinking about since a lot of things have transpired. I felt like for a very long time, I was planting a lot of seeds, right? And of course, when you plant a lot of seeds, you have to constantly water those seeds. You have to pull weeds. You have to take care of the soil, right, in order for it to bloom into something beautiful. And I felt that for years and years, that all I was doing was watering dirt. No matter how much seeds I planted, I felt that I did great upkeep of it. You know, they say in the Bible you just need faith the size of a mustard seed, right? So I felt like I was doing all of these great things, and all I was seeing for years and years was a whole bunch of dirt, right? And this year has been the first time that I felt that I can see flowers. Like I can actually see flowers, and not only can I see flowers, I can actually sit and admire those flowers, right? Because sometimes things grow and you may see it, but then you're so caught up with other things that are happening, right? And so I am still in my garden. I am still watching it grow, but there are snippets of grace that I feel in admiration and appreciation when I see a flower finally after watering so much dirt. So I feel like I still have lots and lots of flowers to grow. And it's not just me growing them, right? Because you said a key word in there, God and faith, right? And it's not just something that I can control, because I don't control the weather and I don't control the aspects of nature, but tending to these seeds and making sure that I put the work in. I still have more to do, but I am at the beginning of that appreciation phase where I can finally see like a flower and be proud that I grew something. Because when you start to plant seeds and you see nothing growing, you think for a very long time, like, something I'm doing that's wrong. Like, I'm not doing it right. Like, you're like, oh man, these seeds maybe were dormant, and then you start to plant more and more and more. And so for a very long time, I felt all I was doing was just watering. But yes, I'm able to see some flowers, and I still have a whole garden to look at. I just see a little section. But yeah, I'm proud of my flower that I was able to grow. So yeah.
So Ryan, I just want to say congratulations also. This is a long time coming. I've known Ryan for over 20 years now, as one of my students, and now I'm her student, right? But my question to Ryan is, what has inspired you to do this? What inspired your journey? And I know it's been a long journey. It's, you know, and I talk about it. I'm going to leave it as an open question. What has inspired your journey?
So that question, there's a lot that inspired me, right, throughout the years. Well, first I would say that um, my home school district, right, my parents, so to say, which are here right now, shout outs to my auntie and my auntie. They raised me, right, and always instilled in me that education was my way out, right? It was very important for you to get education. And my school district really exposed me to such greatness. Like with them, I was able to play an instrument, I was able to travel, I was able to learn languages. And so that foundation of being exposed to many different facets of life got me to appreciate education, right? And so appreciated education, wanted to become a teacher because there were teachers in my life that truly pushed me and constantly encouraged me in ways that I couldn't do so myself, right? And so being a teacher to me, I felt was the utmost greatest profession ever. You get to shape students' futures, you get to work with kids, you get to have fun. And so, from the love of education going into being a teacher, that helped me to shape the direction I wanted to go. But church also
Mhm. Amen.
really constantly reminded me of like the fact that I had greatness, right? Like I always, it doesn't matter what I was doing, I always was reminded that there is greatness inside of you. You will be great. You come from great. You are royalty. You are a chosen generation. All of those great things, right? So the love of education, becoming a teacher, constantly being reinforced and instilled in my psyche that I have greatness. All of that came down to college, going to college. And I actually went to college on a scholarship because of mathematics, right? So math was, again, as he said it before, he was my math teacher in seventh and eighth grade. And literally one of the reasons why I actually love math, because when I got to high school, let me tell you, I had teachers where I would literally after high school come to the middle school to his extra help, like, this lady is not teaching me. Help me with this stuff, right? And I struggled a lot in high school. I was at extra help every day. At his extra help, not the teacher's extra help, because I don't know what they was doing, and that's no shade to high school teachers, but the love for math was like there. So, you know, I have this whole idea like, listen, I'm an African American female, I'm in mathematics, I want to be a teacher, I understand that I have greatness. Now I finally get to the classroom. Now, when I got to the classroom, I realized that students, especially ones that look like me, despise school. Like, for some reason, there was a disconnect. And like generational wealth is something that a lot of people that look like us do not have, right? It does not, you know, some people are privy to it, but for the most part, you know, our ancestors in our history we have a tough road, and students were not connecting like my education is the way that I soar high, like it's the way that I'm successful, so I need to do great now so that I can be great, right? And so once I got into the classroom, I really was like, you know what, I would love to make a difference not only in students but in teachers as well. Like, it's important that students are in a classroom, that they see the relevance, that they're excited, that they want to be there, that they see themselves in the math, you know. And then it's also important for teachers to have a mindset to say, like, listen, I'm going to continuously have an open mindset to say every student can learn, every student is able and capable. I have to continuously refresh myself so that I'm able to provide that great educational content, because every profession starts with a teacher. Every single profession, whether you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're a preacher, everything happens with a teacher. So when I got into the classroom, I got super excited about starting and perfecting this great teacher instruction that I now have. And so that journey has led me to being in the classroom, developing a great product. And then after developing a great product, I was able to make that a business. Then after making that a business, I was able to be part of other businesses. And then after being part of other businesses, I was able to become a college professor, and then now an author. And an author, I'm telling you guys right now, I was just telling Aunt Suze this. When I started this book, it started as a journaling exercise, right? Because it was tough. Like, we're going to talk about some things that I went through. It was tough, the experiences that I was experiencing. And my therapist at the time was like, just write it down, get it out, try to put this on paper. And when I did that, I left it alone for a while because I was ashamed of my story. I really was. I really didn't want me talking about these experiences to affect my future work, right? I used to think, like, if I would tell people what happened, then they're not going to hire me because they're going to think that I'm being a bitter Black woman or aggressive Black woman. And so I kept it to myself. And it wasn't until a couple months ago I went to a workshop, and this African-American presenter was like, your story matters. Like, telling your story matters. Like, you don't know how many young people, women, people of color, like, just need to see that they go through the same thing. So I say to say a lot of different things inspired me. Like, a lot of different things, a lot of different people in this room. I mean, there's history with every single one of you guys. And it doesn't go like unnoticed. There is things that you may have told me in passing, things that I've witnessed, things that I've seen, that have really allowed me to truly dig deep into what I'm doing. And I just want to say before I go that being a professional, right, and going through this journey of owning a company, entrepreneurship, if it wasn't for, these are two of the people that I mentioned in my dedication, right? If it wasn't for their words, I'm telling you, there would have been so many times that I would have broke down at work. And you know that, I'm a Seymour. We don't do that. We don't break down. We don't do that. We stay strong. We keep our head up, and there was so many times that after I did something, I was so discouraged. And if it wasn't for my visits in the classroom, if it wasn't for talking to these two at work, I wouldn't have made it thus far. So there's definitely a lot of things that have contributed to my journey. So do we have any more questions before I get started? Oh yeah. There's a lot of times that it got so bad. I mean, in the book I talk about this experience that I had. I was on site at work, and I was brought on. When you're a consultant, you're brought on by the district, right? And then the district brings you on to work with different teachers. I was brought on through the district to work with a teacher. I went to go find this teacher in the teacher lounge. And as I'm walking into the teaching lounge, I opened up the door. The whole room got quiet. There was a group of teachers sitting here talking. There had to be maybe 10, 15 teachers in the room. The teacher that I came to look for comes out and says, you know that they were talking about you? And when I tell you, it was, first of all, it was embarrassing, but I still had to work with those teachers later in the day. So not only were they having an intense conversation about me, not good things, all negative things, talking about me like a dog. And again, I want to remind you, this is my home, right? I grew up in this district. They were talking about me so badly that it made certain other teachers feel uncomfortable. And then when I came into the room, they got quiet, and I still had to go and work with them after that experience. First of all, I wanted to cry. That was my first instinct. I wanted to cry. I wanted to be emotional. I remember going into his office and I'm like, I can't do this. Like I've done nothing wrong to these people. I can't do this. I can't work with people who think of me like this. And at that moment, I wanted to throw in the towel. Like I really did. I really wanted to quit. I wanted to throw in the towel. But it those words that he told me in his office, and then I came home, right? And I remember, you guys know, my Aunt Laverne. By the way, I want to shout out Chicken and Cake for sponsoring all of our lovely treats today. But if it wasn't, I remember I came home and she was like, how was your day, right? And she said that, I mean, I started like crying and I'm like, Aunt Laverne, I don't know what's wrong. And she said, what's wrong with you? She's like, no, we don't do that. She was like, have your little tears, but suck it up and do what you're supposed to do. And sometimes those words can be so sharp at the moment, but it's the things that got me through. So absolutely, in my journey, there's been so many times that I wanted to quit. So many times that I felt like it wasn't worth it. I can do so much better on the other side, but yeah. And there's still times that I feel that way. It's still the obstacles haven't stopped. They're actually worse now. I just developed the confidence now. Like I've just developed the confidence to be like, okay, well, that's how you feel. I'm going to continue to kind of go on. Anyone else? Go ahead.
So Dr. Ryan, question for you. So what made you actually transition from teaching in the school district to becoming a consultationist, to become a counsel, consultant, so to speak? What made you have to do that transition from the children? Was it the parents? Was it the educational system itself? Or was it the students that made you transition over to that?
Okay, so I was teaching in Florida, right? Shout outs to Florida. No longer live there, back on the East Coast. I was in Florida, and my first year of teaching, I hit the quota. The school's proficiency rate, and proficiency means like the percentage they're expecting students to pass and leave, right, was 32% out of 100. So that's low, right? And I came out that year with like 38, right? And I mean, they were honoring me at the PTA, the meeting that we have with teachers. It was our staff meeting. They were honoring me, and they're like, I was Seymour at the time, and they was like, Miss Seymour, you're doing such great things. You hit the quota. And I'm from New York, and I'm over here like, I remember sitting down thinking like, these people are crazy. Like, this is low. Like, this is, why are they celebrating me? Like 38? That's not good. Like, I can't bring that home. Like, I can't bring that great home. So, I mean, I know they're happy, but this is not good. And I remember like going home, I was talking to, a couple of colleagues, and I was so like shocked that they thought that I did well. So what I did that year is I actually went back and I'm like, you know what? I looked at my data. I saw that for the majority of the time, I was doing a lot of the talking. My kids were not doing a lot of the talking, right? I was teaching them the way that I learned. I wasn't giving them opportunities to explore. I wasn't creating engaging environments, right? Like I was just up there lecturing and talking at them. So I was like, you know what? My second year, I'm going to go in. I'm going to do all these different things. I'm going to try all these different things. I went back to the drawing board, and my data went like through the roof. Actually, my principal came up to me and was like, you know what? Your classroom is like a model classroom. When other principals and schools come, can we walk through your classroom? And that started happening more and more. And then my state data came back. I got recognized from Florida State. A letter was sent to me that stated that my kids were in the top percentage of passing Florida State exams, right? So I got all of this recognition. And then I started thinking, like, how do I make this money? Like, how do I make this money, right? So I remember, do you remember I called you? I called him, and I'm talking, and I said, listen, I got a question, because I don't know if this is a thing. I said, I developed something good. These people keep coming to my classroom. The principal in the school is getting all of the credit. I'm getting zero of the credit. And I'm not gonna be able to like make it into like administration until like you got to put like 5 years in sometimes when you're a teacher. So I'm like, I'm nowhere near making it to get recognition. I'm like, but I feel like I have this thing. I'm like, is this a thing? And he was like, yeah, it's a thing. It's called consulting. And I'm like, oh. And I'm like, I'm like, I want to do this. Like, I want to be able to take this classroom, the things that I'm doing in my classroom, and I want to share this. Because my kids in my classroom shouldn't be the only ones benefiting, right? And after that conversation I had with them, I went home. And again, as a math person, when you're in mathematics, when you love problem solving, that's literally what you do, right? You find the problem and then you find the solution. And you can't sleep until you find the solution, right? Like it irks you. You may get it wrong, but you're going to constantly go. And I went home and I'm like, I'm going to make this a product, right? So that summer, my sister actually came with me. Do you remember when we went to NYU? Yeah. You came with me. My sister came with me. I said, listen, Janisha. So I'm going to the city. I'm doing a workshop, right? And I need someone there taking pictures and photos. And I said to myself, if I go to this workshop and I bomb, all right, then that's it. But if I go to this workshop and I thrive and I feel good, like I'm taking this on the road. I went to that workshop at NYU. It was my first workshop, first one ever in my life. There was people I didn't know. It was offered by NYU. It was called TAC, right? Like it was a somebody, yeah. So he got me into this workshop. I don't know how he did, but somebody done called me. Now I'm at the workshop. I got there and I had such an amazing time. Like teachers were so thrilled with this. They were excited. And I just didn't stop after that. Right? I made it. I made my business and I kept going. And then once I realized the money you get, yeah, I was good after that. I was good after that.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Thank you.
After what?
DeSantis.
Oh, that was before. I left there. Thank the Lord. Thank the Lord. Any more questions we have? Yes, I got 3 books to sign. Another question? Go ahead.
So the question actually references something that's actually written in the book. And the reference is about a dog and a wolf. Ryan told me this story, and it actually kind of lends to the question that you asked about her coming out of the classroom, the dog and the wolf. So I really wanted her to tell the story of the dog and the wolf.
Okay, so I'm going to treat it like school here. I am going to just pass you guys the book. I'm going to sign it. Miss Anita, I started writing yours, but I didn't finish signing it, but I just want you guys to follow along, right? Could you hand that to Miss Anita? This is Auntie Erica's right there. And then Jazz, this is yours. Please make sure I sign it. So I'm actually talking about page 25, right? So there's some history behind this story, right? So I had called him to ask him, was this a thing, right? I started my workshops. And then, of course, when you're starting a company, you don't get a lot of business right away, right? And so I was trying to figure out, like, how am I able to thrive and how am I able to get this business? So this actually, I was told this fable by my Uncle Milton, right? My Uncle Milton lives in Atlanta. My Uncle Milton is the husband of my Aunt Mike, which is the best friend of my Aunt Joan, right? So I call my Uncle Milton because those of you who know Milton, he is a philosopher. Like, he's one person that when you speak to him and you ask him this question, he gives you so much history, right? So I called him and I'm like, Uncle Milton, listen, I need to know what to do because I'm trying to quit my job, but then I'm not getting any money. I want to go do this business thing, but like, what can I do? Like, what should I do, right? And he says, you know what? I'm going to tell you about the story of the wolf and the dog, right? And he says, and I said, Uncle Milton, I didn't really call you for this, right? And he says, listen, and then afterwards you'll have your answer. So, I was looking for him to tell me what to do. He's a lawyer. He owns his own company. It's one of the reasons why I called him, because listen, I need you to tell me what to do. So he says, once upon a time, right, there lived a wolf and a dog, right? And the wolf was in the wild. The wolf was free. Sometimes the wolf had food. Sometimes the wolf didn't have food. Sometimes the wolf had a shiny coat. Sometimes the wolf didn't have a shiny coat. He said, but the wolf was free, right? And again, I'm like, uncle, all right, like I understand, but like, what's the point? So he says, one day the wolf walks by in a castle and sees a dog. And he started talking to this dog and he says, man, like you are thick, you're fat. Like, who is feeding you? And like, your coat is so shiny. Like, how did it get so shiny? And the dog is like, well, my master feeds me and my master brushes me, right? And the wolf is like, well, I want a master too. Like, your master feeding you, I want somebody to feed me. Your master's brushing you, I want somebody to brush me. So the dog is like, yeah, come on. I'm gonna show you to my master, and maybe he could be your master too. So as the wolf is walking towards the castle, the wolf is on the outside of the gates. The dog is on the inside of the gates, right? So as the wolf is walking, he notices on the dog's neck a collar. And so he's like, hey, what's that on your neck? And the dog is like, well, this is my collar. He's like, why do you have that? He says, well, this means that I can never leave. And the wolf says, what do you mean you can never leave? And he says, well, why would I want to leave? I have a master that feeds me. I have a master that brushes my coat. There's no need for me to leave. All I have to do is watch the castle, and that's simple. And so the wolf is like, well, does that mean that when I get a master, I have to wear a collar? And the dog is like, yeah. So my uncle says, so Ryan, which one are you? Are you a wolf or are you a dog? He says, before you answer, just know this, that you can be a dog, and there's nothing wrong with being a dog. You can go to work. You can get a paycheck every 2 weeks. You'll know where your food is coming from. You'll know, the type of money you're getting, and you can be safe and secure. He said, or you can be a wolf, and there's going to be some days that you eat, some days that you don't eat. Some days you look good, some days you don't look good. He says, but you will be free. So when he asked me that, I literally was getting ready to go say, well, I would be a dog. But then I said to him, I said, you know what? I was about to say I'm going to be a dog, but I will never be free. Like, if I stay in the classroom, I will always know the type of paycheck I'm getting. I'll always know where I'm going. I'll always have a job, but I'll always be working underneath that school, right? I'll always be working for that principal. I will never be working for myself. Versus if I'm free, that means that I can therefore do any and everything I wanted. So that was the catalyst to how I left the teaching job and went to be an entrepreneur 100%. That dog. So that story is in chapter 20 on page 25. And it actually comes after this chapter that really speaks about an experience that I had with a principal that was my former principal. And I remember I went to do my job this day, and I go into the office and I'm talking to this principal, and he says to me, you should come work for me. And I'm thinking, like, I'm here under my own business. Like, why would I come work for you? But, whatever. So he's like, you should come work for me. And I said, I think I'm going to stick with, working for myself. And he says, you're just having fun right now. You'll come find me when you're ready to get a real job. That's basically what he was saying. And so I remember, like, again, I'm in a professional setting, right? So I can't act like Robin. That's my mother, by the way. So I'm in this professional setting, right? And I remember, like, immediately thinking, like, how could somebody so bold disregard the fact that I have literally my logo on my shirt? I'm here under my own company. And he literally says to me, you should come work for me. Or, when you're done having fun, as if what I was doing was something fun, right? To come work for him. And as the conversation continued, I think this was the first time that I realized, like, wow, you're going to be dealing with people that you don't even understand the negativity they may start to plant with you, right? So as I'm continuing this conversation, he says to me, well, do you have kids? And I was like, no, I don't have any children. And he says, well, that's why you're doing this, because you have the time to do this. And so you'll get to know this administrator in this book. He's mentioned multiple times. And the crazy part about it is he was a former administrator of mine when I was at the high school. So he was my administrator at one point in my journey. And I felt so disregarded. This comes to time talking about the quitting. Like, you meet people, you interact with people that they don't even realize the things that they say can be so hurtful, at the same time degrading. And then these are the things that stick in your head, because now, of course I dismissed him politely, but then now I started to think, like, is what people see me doing as something I'm having fun with? Like, are they not taking me seriously? So yeah. And again, I was like, I gotta be a wolf at this point, right? I gotta be a wolf. There's gonna be sometimes I try to catch some prey and they don't go down. You know what I'm saying? You gotta fight. But yeah, that is definitely a story that's the catalyst to why I started the entrepreneurship.
That was the first thing I underlined.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was going to ask you, what was the job next to
He wanted me to come work for him as a teacher. So again, he says, like, literally point blank, as I have just done my job, you're just having fun. Like, you'll be like, when you're ready, you can come work for me. And that was, I think also I realized too, I was so shocked at, just as a black man talking to a black woman. And I'm just like, we are of the same ethnicity. Why is it not filled with encouragement? And there's a lot of stuff going on with that. But yeah, it was an eye opener to a lesson, that I had.
Check one. Okay, so after you've now monetized the consulting part of your business, you've written a book. I haven't read it yet, but I anticipate it's going to be a very successful one. And I speak life over it.
Thank you.
And what are your plans now? What do you hope to accomplish? And I know I saw some snippets of it in the book, what you're trying to do by educating. And another part of the jealousy thing and other people trying to stop your progress is ignorance. Yeah. So as you have written this book, Unmute, what is your goal? What do you hope to accomplish and have your readers be able to see and do?
I would really love it for especially black women to embrace their power. Because you can do literally any and everything as long as you put your mind to it. And I know it sounds cliche, but it's so true. Mm-hmm. And I hate to be gender biased because I am a female, but we are strong people, such strong people. So I would really love it for black women to embrace their power. I also want to encourage them, especially if they're in settings that they're dealing with a whole bunch of just not in a setting that's receptive to them. Right. That it's okay. Take a breath, learn from these experiences, and still soar. Do not allow them to define you. That is literally my goal with this book. I want people to understand that, first of all, as a woman, then as a black woman, then as a young black woman, you're going to deal with so much adversity. And it has nothing to do with what you're bringing to the table. Continues to still bring that to the table, but just know how to navigate it. Like, know how to navigate it. Because sometimes we can give in. Sometimes people can take us there. Sometimes we can have words. Sometimes we can stop. Sometimes we can quit, but don't do that, because it's literally what they want and the goal of why they plant those seeds of negativity. So I would really want, especially Black women, to know that, like, it is given that we are going to go through the nonsense. It is given. We look different, we speak different, we have a certain power. Don't allow that to deter you. Navigate through it. And these are some of the things that I had to learn in order to navigate through it. And it took me a while to be proud of the navigation, because I told you for a while I was ashamed of it. And so that is one goal. I also want to open up the conversation to Black people, period, to say, all it's important for us to invest in the greatness of others. Even though people are doing what you may not have been able to do, even though people may have passed you, even though people may have done are doing things that you felt that you wanted to do but had, the true essence of power is bringing people up with you, right? And so that's why, as you look around, my lovely videographer, African American man, my caterer, African American woman, I thrive on having African American vendors that work for me, because it is really up to us to continuously to invest more power into who we are as a people, right? So Black men, understand that when we are talking and we are stern, we're not coming with attitude. We're standing on quote unquote business. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. It means that, don't take us being strong as something that's negative. We have to be strong. Also, watch what you say to us, because in my book, I remember I did a Saturday academy, right, for this school district, right? This is actually on page 44, right? And I just want to just read a little bit of this, because I feel like this like really aligns with what we're saying. The idea that Black women can never speak their minds stem from a historical stereotypes and societal expectations that have attempted to suppress their voices and opinions. Throughout history, unapologetically Black women have faced intersecting forms of discrimination and marginalization based on both race and gender. These social constructs have often perpetuated the notion that their opinions are less valued, or that speaking up might bring about negative consequences. So the title unmute means, like, don't be mute. Be graceful, be respectful, but don't be afraid to speak your truth, right? Stereotypes. Society has perpetuated stereotypes portraying Black women as aggressive, angry, or confrontational when expressing their opinions. This stereotype often discourages them from speaking out for fear of being perceived negatively. And I also want to talk about the actual example that happened, right? So if you turn to page 44. So I was brought on to develop a curriculum for a Saturday program at my home district, but faced resistance due to concerns about attendance and student engagement. Teachers hesitated to grade work from a weekend program, which shaped my approach to create an interactive e-learning curriculum. So this means that I created a curriculum that not only allowed teachers to grade things automatically, but it was it was integrated with technology, right? So if a teacher didn't want to grade, it would be something that I can see and I can provide the grades, right? So I created a platform so that it took the responsibility off of teachers and put it on me, since I'm running it, because I know that the administrators of the school wanted data on these kids as they were in this program, right? So this innovative curriculum included game-based learning, discussion forums, and a collaboration opportunities across schools. So what this means is, as I'm creating this learning academy, right, the administrators comes to me and say, hey, listen, we want to have this academy. The problem is, when we ran it last year, our teachers didn't grade anything. It was a Saturday program, so they felt like, when class was over, they wanted to go. We totally understand that. They didn't want to do extra work. Also, we're having a truancy issue, which means students will come some days, but not all the time, right? And then we'll have certain classes that have like one student versus classes that have 10. So we're dealing with all these issues on Saturday. How do we fix it? Well, I said, why not create activities where in this district there's 2 middle schools that were running this program? Why not create a platform where both of the schools can talk to each other? So if a student is in a class by themselves, they can also talk to another student in another class, right? So it creates a sense of classroom community despite the numbers. Also, if a student was absent, right, for like 3 weeks and then come right in, they're able to see all of the work and discussions that happen between students despite being absent. So a teacher doesn't have to go back and say, oh man, I got to go back and teach this kid or get this kid caught up. No, put them on a program. They're able to read what kids spoke about. They're able to interact with kids despite them being absent. So I had all of this in mind, right? So it says, however, a school district's personnel dislike towards me led to the opposition against the program. So there was a couple of teachers that did not like me, was very upset that I wrote this program, and felt that they needed to call me in for a meeting because, one, they didn't like the fact that they weren't able to grade the work. Now, remember what the administration told me about grading. But they didn't like the fact that they weren't able to grade the work. They also didn't like the fact that kids were talking across grades. So they were like, I don't want to see kids' responses in the school or the classroom I'm not teaching. I just want to see my own. But not understanding, I created this program due to the concerns that were brought to me by the administrator, right? So during walkthroughs, teachers with personal issues voiced complaints, prompting a confrontational meeting. Despite being polite, I defended the program's design for the students' benefit. I explained to them, listen, these students are here, they're struggling, they're not going to be very open to talking, but students love to type. They like Instagram, they like Twitter. Why not bring this platform to them where they can type responses? They don't necessarily have to talk. And if you have a classroom where no one is talking, they can at least see conversations happening in other places, right? So yet I was accused of being aggressive, falling into the stereotype of an assertive Black woman. I remember having this meeting, and in the meeting they're saying, we don't like your tone. We don't understand why you're being aggressive. And then I'm telling them, like, listen, this is the program I created. I'm not changing it because you are uncomfortable. You're not the one learning. Did the kids complain? Because when I go to walkthrough, the kids are having a ball. I don't see any of this happening. But saying those things, they turn to their administrators in the meeting and they're like, you see, this is why we don't want to work with her. In the meeting. The situation escalated when I was barred from the school event later in the meeting. So after having this meeting, part of my job from administration was to come and observe this program, right? Go in, do walkthroughs, be there to answer any questions that teachers may have. And one of the principals of the school told me that I was not welcome. By the way, this was the very school that I went to middle school at. I was not welcome to come into the building. I went into the main office to tell them, hey, I'm here. I want to do some walkthroughs. The teacher says, I was told to not let you in the building after this meeting. So despite the success and the positive feedback from students, my credibility was undermined due to my personal animosity. This experience shed light on biases and the challenging terrain faced by Black women in professional settings where even positive contributions can be dismissed due to personal vendettas. So I say to say, I'm really hoping that this book provides light on some of the experiences that I had, ways to navigate them, encourage sisters that it's okay to be who you are, stand for what you believe in, but understand that this is what you should expect, right? And then being an entrepreneur, this is what you're going to go through, right? You're going to go through these things and just provide some encouragement. So what do I plan to do next? I would love to take this book and kind of go on a lot of book tours, have these open conversations. I would love to start some entrepreneurship programs at schools for Black women, Black girls, and also just help them to turn this period type of attitude into something professional. Because even though we're Black women, we still have to navigate how to have this conversation and talk.
Did you anticipate writing a follow-up to this book, or did you have another book in mind?
So I have another book in mind. I'm actually working on book 2. This is more built on my dissertation because as of Wednesday, I defended. So I am officially a doctor, right? So I'm sorry. I just have to tell this one story. Ja, I was thinking about like if mommy was alive, right? If I was to call her, right? And tell her like, hey ma, I just became a doctor. I feel like she would have called everyone in the hood like, listen, if y'all got a headache, y'all can just call my daughter. You're not feeling good, you can call my daughter. And like, Ma, I'm not that type of doctor, you know? Doctor education. But I just had to tell that story because, you know, that's some of the things that really get me through with the grieving process, right? Thinking about, yes, she would have been. But I could also, I see her asking, well, does this mean you, like, if I have a temperature, you can check it? You know, like, no, ma, not that. But I am writing a book on my dissertation, which to me, I feel like will be a great catalyst of my company. My company deals a lot with trying to create accessible environments for students, trying to encourage teachers and students to really embrace relevant math and really creating engaging environments. So that's going to be my second project. I would love to build a following from this, but I don't know if I have any more things to write. I'm going to be honest. It's like similar to, you know, your spiritual life, right? You just got to wait for that calling. So I'm not really sure if there's going to be any sequel. I feel like with this, I said what I had to say. I was brief. I did it. But I do feel like there's more work to be done with speaking engagements and being on the ground. So that's what I definitely want to do next. In my second book, which I am working on right now, it should be out in June, so that we can start next school year off right. But that's going to be built on my dissertation and my research.
So I have a comment. It's just a comment, really, because Ryan had mentioned teachers who don't like her, and I don't think the issue was teachers not liking Ryan. They didn't like what she represented, and Ryan represented change, right? And so if you have teachers or anyone, staff members who are used to doing things a certain way, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, some of them will tell you, I've been doing this for 30 years. And they didn't want change, right? So what Ryan was doing was new, it was innovative, it was what we needed. It's the change that we needed at the time in the district. And so I just want to bring that point of clarity, right? And the very style or type of program that she was trying to implement prior to the pandemic, right?
Prior to the pandemic,
the district instituted something very, very similar to it, formative. Very similar to it, where it did the same exact, and Ryan created this prior to it. And I guess another company may have gotten wind of it. And so very, very same things. I just really wanted to make that point of clarity. It's not that they didn't like Ryan, it's they didn't like change.
Any other questions? Comments? It's hopefully an eye opener for people to understand. Watch how you plant seeds in other people's lives. You know, as Christians, we believe in the power of the tongue. Your tongue has so much power. And sometimes people may not realize the things that people are going through. You know, for example, when he asked me, do I have any kids, right? I'm very sensitive about children because of my own personal fight that I've had with fertility. He did not know that, but he said that and assumed that first that I didn't have children, first of all, by choice, not understanding my walk and my struggle, right? But to him, it was just words. To me, it was a tough time that I was going through with that, and still is an issue actually that has started to get a lot of attention when it comes to women and fertility. It's something that is not spoken about, but not every woman is able to do that, you know, and not able to do that in a natural way. So I think it's geared towards both. But I definitely would want to encourage Black women, period, because I think it's important for us to know that.
See what happens when you go on these book tours, and what response you get from it, and what happens while you're doing it. So maybe there'll be 3 books.
Oh, question.
Well, I envision, adding on to what she's saying, I envision you to be as what we need to see reflective of. And I'm seeing it right now for you, you going on being on the TED Talks. Now, if those that don't know TED Talks, those are entrepreneurial people that actually go in these big forums and they have these huge conferences where the person is actually speaking about their truths, their success stories, and people follow them. That's what I see for your future. And it's there. And it's there. And you have to tell your story because your story is so similar to everybody else's story, just in a different way.
Yeah.
But they need to know it and they need to actually have that impactful and passionate feeling, knowing that as you overcome, they can overcome. Because as we know in the spiritual world, what God does for one, he can certainly do for another.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
your success will breed other success as well.
Amen.
And just to tag on to that, you telling your story allows them to prepare for what they have to deal with. It's something to put in their arsenal that they'll be able to come out knowing, anticipating that this could happen, that it will, because a lot of people come with the hope and because they're happy about what they're doing, they feel that other people are going to be excited because look, I can reach a student.
Yeah.
And it's the student gets lost in all of the argument about I've been here for 50 years, or this is how we've done it for all this time, or I don't like you, or I don't want to see you doing this because I'm pulling you back down. You've gotten too far ahead of yourself. So for all of those things, if I can anticipate that this would happen to me, even with my good goals in mind, then I can prepare for it in a way that would help somebody else.
So it's Women's History Month, right? Shout out to the women in here. Dex, I'm sorry about that. So there's just a closing that I want to read, and then we're gonna save the rest of our time for just some personal engagement and making sure we eat all of this food that we have out. So please eat. But on page 49, I wrote a message to Black women, and I thought that since it is Women's History Month, that I share it. And then again, we're gonna end the Book and Berea Club for today. So to my fellow Black queens, in a world that often tries to dim our shine, I want to remind you of the brilliance that resides within you. You are a force, an embodiment of resilience, beauty, and unwavering strength. Your journey, your story, your existence, it's all a testament of the power that flows through your veins. We've navigated paths less traveled, faced hurdles that seemed unsurmountable, and shattered ceilings meant to confine us. But through it all, we've merged as radiant beacons of hope and inspiration. Embrace your uniqueness. Let your melanin glow, your hair defy gravity, and your spirit soar. Celebrate your curves, your quirks, and the echoes of your ancestors that resonate within you. You are not defined by the limitation others try to impose. Instead, you define your narrative. Your voice matters, your dreams are valid, and your presence is a revolution. In a world that sometimes overlooks our worth, it's essential to stand tall, unapologetically bold. Embrace your intelligence, your passions, and your ambitions. Be unafraid to speak up, to take up space, and to pave new paths. Know that your success is not just an individual triumph, but a collective victory for all Black women who have fought, strived, and dreamed before you. So my dear sisters, let's continue to break barriers, rewrite narratives, and create our legacy. Be unapologetic in your pursuit of greatness. Be bold, be fierce, and never shrink yourself to make others comfortable. We are the embodiment of strength, grace, and resilience. Let's wear our crowns proudly and continue to shine brightly, knowing that our presence light the way for generations to come with love and solidarity. So, again, I want to thank everyone for coming. We're going to spend this last 15 minutes socializing, but again,